Hello, everyone. My name is Amita. I am from Nourish Talk, your host, and we are going to be talking about gluten. What exactly is gluten? And how does gluten affect all of our guts? So we are going. I'm going to be talking with Dr. Varalakshmi, who is joining me live from UK. Oh, there you are. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? Thank you so much for joining. We had a glitch earlier, so I had to end the session, but we are back here, so that's great.
Oh, I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, the pleasure is ours, and I was just talking about maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit. I was just saying you are an Ayurvedic doctor who specializes in digestion. Maybe you can expand on it a little bit.
Yes, of course. So, thank you everyone, first of all, for joining us, on this evening, Monday evening. So, my name is Dr. Varalakshmi, and I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner and doctor. I have been practicing Ayurveda for the past 10 years. I specialize in working with women who suffer with gut health issues, digestion and problems, and as well as hormonal imbalances. So mainly you can call me gut health expert.
Sure. And a lot of us, a lot of women nowadays, all of us are having some kind of a digestion issues, because of the food that kind of we eat and the stress. So the topic for today's discussion is actually on gluten. So we are going to be starting with what exactly is gluten. Since Dr. Lakshmi is an Ayurveda doctor, so we're going to talk from an Ayurvedic perspective. And then, we'll go into the gut. So let's just start with what is gluten, Dr. Lakshmi?
So gluten is the sticky protein in most of the, grains that we see today, like the wheat, barley, spelt, in most of the food grains that we see. Gluten is the sticky protein that gives our bread to rise, and also that, nature of the bread, which gives a porous appearance for the bread to rise up, the flour to rise up. So so that is the protein inside wheat, which gives the appearance. And also in cakes and pastries, why they raise beautifully is because of the having gluten, the protein gluten in them.
Okay. So now let's talk about from an Ayurvedic perspective, since you're an Ayurveda doctor. So how does Ayurveda look at gluten, and does it recommend gluten or not?
So we have to, because when we talk about Ayurveda's treatment, diagnosis, and when it comes to food, it has a different kind of approach compared to the modern nutrition or modern nourishment that we take, because modern science looks at everything based on the research and then fact-based, like that kind of thing. But Ayurveda looks mainly the diagnosis and treatment is for the person. So we treat a person rather than, looking at the symptoms or directly trying to connect the symptoms to that person, but we look at that person and what kind of agni or digestive capability that a person has to have these kind of problems. So when Ayurveda talked about gluten, again, we have to remember that Ayurveda was written around 5,000 years ago, back when the food grains were processed differently. So now the way the food grains are processed and the food goes through, especially in countries like US and I think also in Western kinds of part of the society, the food is mainly genetically modified food. And most of the wheat that we get in outside in the store is a very, very refined version of the whole grain.
That's right.
So the processing is very different from the way we used to get from a long time ago. And as per Ayurveda, wheat is a very good nourishing protein. So, wheat is a good nourishing protein, and not everybody has a problem to digest wheat. Because Ayurveda looks at a person depending upon their body types and the type of agni, whether the person has ama or digestive toxins, whether they have inflammation in their gut. Depending on that, we recommend a person to whether they can eat wheat and digest that, or whether they cannot eat wheat or should avoid gluten or wheat. So this is how Ayurveda looks at gluten. not everyone, as per Ayurveda, has a trouble to digest wheat. For example, for myself, I don't have a problem to digest wheat, but someone else may not be the same. They can have a trouble digesting the wheat or gluten. And usually kapha person, a person, if they have a weak agni, means if they have weak inflammation in their gut, or they have some developed allergy towards that specific protein gluten, like a kapha person who has more intolerance towards heavy sticky things, those kind of people, as per Ayurveda recommends them not to eat gluten for them until they reduce the inflammation and improve their digestive strength. Ayurveda says that they should avoid the gluten or wheat. But once you improve your digestive strength and you have the ability to digest heavy foods, for example, not only the gluten, if you take like dairy, soy, these kind of foods, not every one of us can actually digest them, right? So we do have a different capability when it comes to food, and not all of us are suited to eat like ice cream at night and still don't get cold. Or, but if a person has a pitta or strong digestive fire, they can actually eat anytime anything and don't get any disease because of the good digestive strength they have, right? So it specifically comes down to the fact of how good your digestion strength or how good your agni or jataragni is. Before Ayurveda suggests someone to, whether they should stop eating gluten or whether they should continue eating gluten, it depends on that, to be honest.
So I think let's talk a little bit about Agni, just the definition of Agni for our viewers. Most of the people might not understand what Agni is. Agni is the fire of digestion, but maybe you can just explain in one sentence so that people, at least the Western concept of Agni, how does it correlate?
So Agni, the word is a Sanskrit word. It means fire. So it's a Sanskrit word. Literal translation is fire. But when Ayurveda is describing Agni is like the transformative force that is present in each and every cell of our body. So for example, if we take the minute cell in our body, there is, mitochondria. Mitochondria are called the powerhouse of the cell, right? It is the structure which gives energy for doing, all the physiological activities inside that cell. So you can call, so Ayurveda says that Agni is present even in minute cells coming, and in the cell you can call mitochondria as the form of Agni. So for any chemical reaction that is happening in our body, from food, like the macroparticles of food digesting and becoming microparticles, from sensory perception, like you're looking at an object and then you are analyzing it, even for that we need Agni. For all of these actions that are happening inside our body, any transformation, we need Agni. And one such important Agni or force that present in our digestive system called Jataragni Jatra means stomach, Agni means fire. So like the HCl or hydrochloric acid or stomach juices that are present in our stomach can be correlated to that Jataragni. So that is the Agni, or in modern aspect, which we have a gut, we call it. Gut does all the similar functions that Ayurveda explains about Agni. So we can correlate gut functions or gut as the, slightly compare it to what Agni as per Ayurveda does, if that makes sense.
So I hope that's clear for our viewers. And so let's move on to the gluten. So let's say if I'm sensitive to gluten, and how would it affect my gut? I'm going to have some kind of an indigestion issues. I mean, what will happen? Like if I'm still eating, like gluten and gut correlation is what I'm trying to understand.
Of course. So like I said, usually people who have gluten sensitivity, most commonly people who have weak Agni, like if you, if you have food intolerances for a very, very long time, like the nagging symptoms like bloating, gas, wind, and then constipation. These are some of the basic common signs to identify that you have some form of a gut issue going on. Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
when it comes to gluten sensitivity, there are different stages. For example, a person could be just, intolerant. Intolerance means just whenever somebody eats wheat products, like they had a bread, like a slice of bread, they just could end up with a little bit of bloating or heaviness in their tummy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is a very basic intolerance. It's not dangerous for them. That means that they have a very weak Agni that it can't digest wheat products.
Yeah.
So they just need to work on their gut to improve the fire, and soon they will be able to eat the gluten or wheat products. Okay. Next stage is gluten sensitivity. So the sensitivity is a little bit more difficult. That
Yeah.
means that they have a chronic inflammation in their gut, that the gut is not able to process wheat anymore or gluten products anymore.
Yeah.
So they have more severe problems like pain, tummy ache, feeling like, low energy. And some people even can feel like tired whenever they eat like gluten or wheat products, and it could affect their emotions. It could affect the way, nourishment, whatever the food that they're eating, they won't be able to absorb the energy from that food. So because of that chronic inflammation, and this wheat will act as a trigger, like,
Yeah.
for example, like I use this example, like how you have a wound, and then if you try to apply some kind of a chili powder or a black pepper
Yeah.
on that wound, how you feel. So because you have inflammation, then you
Yeah.
can't apply a trigger. So
That's
this
right.
wheat will act as a trigger for them and increase that pain inside their gut. Okay. So that is the second stage. And third stage is wheat allergy or gluten allergy. That is
Yeah.
the severe form of allergy where
Yeah.
even a minute form of gluten in their body could
Wow.
trigger immune reaction. Okay, so that means that they could end up with more severe problems with them. So this is where we call a condition called celiac disease.
Correct.
Those kind of
Yeah.
more complicated conditions will come into effect. So these are the stages of gluten sensitivity, and common symptoms and signs include, they can start from anything, range from bloating, a simple bloating, to having heaviness in their body, to tummy ache. And for some people, like I said, it can even affect their emotions. They could feel extremely tired. And for some people with celiac disease, they could end up with anemia and stuff, because the body is not able to absorb any iron from, because of the severe
Yeah.
inflammation in their gut. So these are the, symptoms, and how to understand from Ayurvedic and as well as modern perspective.
Yeah. No, I think this is very helpful. This is great. The way you explained it is very simple and comprehensible. I could understand it. I hope our viewers find the same way. So, no, this was really great. So let's, we have only limited time in these sessions. We just want people to understand. So let's talk a little bit about the treatment part from an Ayurvedic perspective for gluten sensitivity.
So, like I said, when we try to treat someone in Ayurveda with any kind of condition, for example, what we look at is what kind of energy or digestive strength that person has. Okay, so that is the first thing. So whether what kind of that comes from what type of body type or mind type, like whether a person has an imbalance of vata imbalance or pitta imbalance or kapha imbalance, these are the biological energies that we look at every person. Okay, so if a person has like kapha kind of intolerance and a kapha body type, they are more prone towards wheat and gluten sensitivities and allergies. Okay, so we look at their strength, and then we look at if they have ama. So ama is a concept of Ayurveda. So like if you I talked about Agni, right? Agni is the digestive strength to digest the food.
That's right.
If you don't have a proper digestive strength, then whenever you're eating food, then that won't get digested properly, and some of it gets digested and some of it remains like undigested material. This mix of a little bit digested and undigested material, whichever is formed, is called ama, or we call it digestive toxins. So over a period of time, if you have these insensitivities or you're not able to digest certain foods, then this ama keep forming. At initial stages, this won't go to any tissues or anything further from your digestive system. It stays in your digestive system and causes these symptoms like, bloating, and we are talking about wind and stuff. But over the period of time, you have not worked on that inflammation and you left it. So you left it and you didn't do anything, then it goes to, it travels through your blood and circulatory system, and it goes to different tissues. That's when this wheat and gluten intolerance, which
Yeah.
we talked, affects your emotions and your heaviness,
Yeah.
energy levels, all these things, right?
Yeah.
So depending upon what stage a person is, we look at that person and then we give a treatment. But some of the basic treatment or the important step in this is to strengthen your digestive ability to digest food. So
Yeah.
that is like boosting your metabolism. So we
Yeah.
usually and then eliminating ama or the digestive toxins from your system is the next stage. Okay.
Correct.
So I think that, but also a simple Ayurvedic herbs like Triphala is a very good place to start if
Yeah.
someone is looking to, just improve their digestive fire generally,
Yeah.
But I would say look at how you're eating as well. So often we don't pay enough attention, like, a simple place to start, whether if you have a gluten sensitivity or not, is to identify how you feel after eating wheat, whether you feel heavy or whether it is making you feel like pain in your tummy. So paying attention, Ayurveda always teaches us to pay attention to your body, or how you react to food, or
Yeah.
how you react to basically pretty much everything related to health. But when it comes to wheat, a person has to be a little bit more conscious whether they have a sensitivity. The best way is to identify how they are feeling after eating that, or maintaining a simple food diary. So if you even maintain 1 week of food diary and notice everything that you're eating, and
Yeah.
then write down how you feel afterwards, then it's a simple calculation of
Yeah.
deducing whether it's suiting your body or not, right? That is a very
Correct.
good place to start as well.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Can you?
that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, and then there is a serious, I mean, more involved, I should say, therapies that Ayurveda has, panchkarma, that cleansing of the body, right? So, someone is talking about, can you talk about GERD, please? Do you want to talk about GERD a little bit? This topic is not about GERD, but Dr. Lakshmi, if you want to say a couple of sentences about GERD.
So gastrointestinal refluxive disease is, one form of, or you can call it like a severe effect of gastritis. So usually we see this in a person with more like pitta kind of, means
Pitta
that
kind of.
who are more prone to acidity and stuff. So
Good.
important thing in in GERD is to make sure that you're not eating anything which is spicy, basically. That
I
goes to
see.
saying, without even at the top
Okay.
of basic level, if you want to control or help to maintain that disease, first thing is to reduce any spicy foods, deep fried foods, oily foods.
Yeah.
And the other thing is pickles and fermented foods. Those are the other two things which can, cause or provoke inflammation in your gut. So GERD, the main problem with them is the acid keeps coming back up into your
Yeah.
esophagus, and that's the main issue they have. And so the important thing is to avoid anything which can even more provoke that inflammation or the acid to come back. So the important thing is that. The other thing is eating on time. So people with any kind of gastric imbalances,
Yeah.
especially, should not avoid food. Like as soon as you feel hungry, you should eat. And for
I,
them, GERD people, for disease, they should eat on time and simple meals, like
yeah.
keeping it, what do you call that? Lesser portions, but more times.
Okay. More times,
Yeah,
multiple
more
times.
times,
Okay.
because for them there is excessive acid which is overflowing out of their
Correct.
digestive
It just
system.
kind
Okay,
of
so
goes from the esophagus out. Yeah.
yes, so
Yeah.
they need to keep it under control. Important thing is to eat on time and should
Yeah.
never neglect their hunger or appetite. So as soon as you feel hungry, you should eat it. Otherwise, if you don't eat it, then the acid could go and damage the mucous membrane in our gut, stomach, lead to ulcers, those kind of things. So that is important. And the other thing is, working with a practitioner is very important, because
Yeah.
that is a complex health condition, and
Yeah.
often you do need support.
That's right. That's it. Well, hope we answered this question. This topic is not about GERD, but we didn't want to ignore you. So, any other questions or feedback before we wrap up today from anyone? We can have a separate session on GERD, because GERD is a very complicated, as Dr. Lakshmi mentioned. It's actually a complicated disease that needs its own.
Hey everyone.
Yeah. Okay. So I think. All right. Thank you so much. What about muscle cramps? Well,
It's going so off topic.
yes, we are going off topic, guys. We need to focus. We need to focus only on gluten. So let's just stick to whatever we have for gluten. This constipation, we'll have to take another topic. Right now, she talked about that. I don't know, is constipation part of this gluten, or that's also off topic, right?
So,
It's a big
yes,
topic.
it is. It is like not directly or not for everyone, but in general, constipation is a sign of having weak Agni or low digestive fire in our body.
Yeah.
And yes, for people who have gluten sensitivity or wheat allergy or wheat intolerances, could end up with constipation. Sometimes at times they could end up with constipation. So one of the important thing that for a simple thing that one could do to what do you call that, improve their constipation, is to intake of water. That is very important. Often we don't pay attention to how much we are drinking.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, but most, even with the most modern people or people who are sports conscious also doesn't understand or doesn't correlate with the importance of water intake. So it goes with that. But one of the other thing is that Ayurveda doesn't recommend like drinking ice cold water or ice
Yeah.
cold drinks. Okay,
Yeah.
so there is a very good scientific reason as well, because our digestive system or the way digestion works is at a high temperature. There is a specific temperature, pH, at which the
Yeah.
food gets digested. Yeah, the acid itself, gastric juices itself have a temperature, and if we drink ice cold water, it creates what we call a cold shock. So the
I see.
temperature will go down very quickly, and the body has
Okay.
to spend significant amount of energy to bring it back up. Okay, so that's the reason I would say, if you are using or drinking like carbonated drinks or things, especially with meals, I would say please look at that. It's very important that you avoid that if you are suffering from constipation and these kind of things. That is very important thing. And the other thing is to include more cooked food.
Yeah.
So
Cook
I
food. Yeah.
think there is a, often there is a misconception that if we eat too much salads which contain fiber, I'm not
Yeah.
refuting that they don't contain
Yeah. Yeah.
fiber, but it's important. If you have low Agni or weak digestive fire, that's when you struggle to digest the food. Then you end up with constipation. Then if you go and eat more dry or fiber, which is very difficult to digest, like the salad, it is a very hard fiber, okay? But when you cook it, it becomes a simple fiber which our body can digest it. So it's important to identify fiber is good, but you need to eat it in the form your body can easily digest it. That's why we recommend eating warm cooked foods. Ayurveda always recommends,
Yeah.
because it's easier. If it's
Yeah.
already broken down into simple particles, it can easily go through it. Yeah. So I would say these are the simple tips for constipation.
No, thank you so much. I think we are almost at half an hour. We try to keep these sessions small, so that people can digest this information, right? We're talking about digestion, so we want the information also to be digested and make sure the Agni can handle the information that we are giving. I mean, right? So thank you so much, Dr. Lakshmi, for being with us. To all our viewers, if you have more questions, if you want to ask, all right, thank you. You're welcome. If you want a more detailed thing, we are going to be launching programs. We can have more detailed workshops. So, but these are just tidbit information for you to just basic education. Anything else? Last comments from you, Dr. Lakshmi, before we wrap up?
Yes, so I would say one important thing is, because when it comes to gluten or some of the modern, the way modern science works,
Yeah.
or the way we are processing information in this generation is whenever something, a new research comes, like the way
Yes.
cholesterol used to be the bad thing, I think maybe a decade
And now it's
ago,
fine.
everybody, yeah, everybody avoided the cholesterol, like saying
Yeah.
that this is the awful thing for our body. Now the same thing is happening with the gluten.
Yeah.
But the my saying or Ayurveda's main concept differs from this, saying that everything out there is the bad enemy. It should not be the case, right? You should look at yourself or your body and what works best for your body, not
Yeah.
follow the bandwagon of gluten or cholesterol or things like that. It's important to look at your body and the choices that you are making consciously and make
Right.
sure that it works for your body. I would say whoever has these digestive problems or so, don't just go on and do this gluten diet and stuff, but
Yeah.
have a deep look,
Yeah.
follow a food diary for 1 week or so, or talk to
Hmm.
somebody who can help you identify, if you have any gluten allergies or things like that,
Yeah.
and take an informed decision. Don't just follow things just because it worked for X, Y. It may not
That's
work for you, and you lose nutrients as well, because we that is a staple food for a lot of cultures and lot of countries for
mhm.
generations and thousands of years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, no, and I do want to add to that is that there is no one else like you. You are the, like a
Unique.
unique person that all of the God has created all of us as unique. So the same way, our diet, our what we take has to be according to what we have, like, our unique constitution. So with that thought, I'd like to wrap up this session. Thank you so much, Dr. Lakshmi, for being there. It's a very informative session. I hope our viewers felt the same way. I think it was simple to understand, basic understanding of what gluten is, and excellent session. Thank you so much. I really appreciate
Thank you
that.
so much, Amita, for having me. I had fun chatting with you. And thank you, everyone, for joining the live. I hope you all have a lovely evening and, see you all soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.